Vance, that's right.
like the vice president.
Hello and welcome to Building the Premier Accounting Firm. I'm your host, Roger Connect, president of Universal Accounting Center. I'm actually a seasoned accountant, if you will, as it relates to offering quality accounting services. For more than 30 years, we've been working with accounting professionals to thrive in their businesses, taking care of their clients as it relates to bookkeeping, accounting, tax preparation, and a variety of other services. We oftentimes focus on the CFO and advisory realm in the sense that we're looking at what more we can do to offer our clients the services that they're needing to see value in what we're doing, but more importantly, improve their businesses. As clients, we want to actually help them as accounting professionals succeed in their companies. And what we're able to do as an accounting profession is serve the business community accordingly. Now, as a show, what we do each and every week, we have on guests, experts to help us actually understand things that we can be doing to build the premier accounting firm, to offer quality services, and perhaps better service our clients. We'll talk about marketing, selling, pricing, tech stacks. We'll talk about mental health. We'll talk about onboarding clients as well as how to retain them. Just a variety of things each and every week that you need to consider as you're looking to build your business. Now, today is going to be a great episode. We actually have Dean Vance on the show. Dean happens to be someone who was born in Philadelphia but raised in Switzerland. He is now actually an accounting professional offering three main services, primarily monthly transactional services, controller, and CFO. His niches happen to be home care, e-commerce, and engineering. So, Dean, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Roger. Great to be here.
Yeah, this is going to be a great discussion. Now, there are a few things I'd like to start with before we begin, and that's a little bit of a background. Give us some context as to why become an accounting professional.
That's a good question, Roger. It was really kind of by mistake almost, right? Because, geez, I had gone to St. Joe's University and I was going to be a dentist, right? So I was a pre-dental major at St. Joe's University on City Line Avenue up in Philadelphia.
Uh-huh.
And, in that first semester, every time I walked by the science building, my blood pressure went up. So I knew there was something about it that I really didn't want to, to pursue. And so I remember changing when I went to my advisor to change my major. He said to me, he said, look, dentists, doctors, not for everybody. Um, but if you like quantified, fields, you can maybe look into accounting. So
Okay.
I went to accounting, took an accounting course, and I got an A in the course. I really enjoyed it. I liked it in the sense it's very logical. Debits equal credits. It is what it is. Numbers
Yep.
don't lie. That kind of thing. And that was one thing. The second thing was my uncle, my mother's brother, my uncle Joe, told me. He said, "Hey, this is back in the Reagan era, right?" So he said, Dean, if you look at the one ads, just look at the first few pages. It's all accounting, right? So as a very practical idea, I thought, you know what, let me just jump on this thing and started accounting. And then from there, I went, let's see, I went from St. Joe's, went to Drexel grad to do a grad degree in taxation. And I think it was the research that put me to sleep. I fell asleep trying to do all this tax research, spending all afternoon in the tax library chasing down rev rulings and tax cases. I just, I should do it before I go to bed so I get a better night's sleep. So anyway, I did about a year at Drexel, and then from there I went to a place called Schatz Miller and Glossman CPA firm,
Okay.
kind of regional CPA firm in Philadelphia at the time. I was there. From there, I went to a Tasty Baking Company, where I worked in their tax department. So I worked under Chris Merger. She was the manager of tax. She had worked at Price Waterhouse. So it was pretty good idea. But I was there for about 4 years. I wanted to get out of there and get into the action, right? So I left there, started my own tax return business, and just doing tax returns for years. Then I contracted out with a couple other accountants and the CPA doing some work for them. And then '96, I got my CPA and started Vance and Associates CPA.
I love
And
it.
here
Well,
I am.
one of the things that really resonates with me is the fact that you looked at this in a logical way. You looked at the career path and saw that there were clearly demand for accounting professionals. Obviously, this is one of the oldest professions out there, so pretty good security there. You
Yeah,
go
right.
into accounting, and obviously you really focused into the tax realm. What was it that drew you to the taxes?
Well, they were very practical, right? So it was compliance. It's like a have to, right? So it was like a forced service almost, right? It's kind of like a forced service. I mean, to hear from Trump, maybe we'll get rid of taxes, but It's a debate between him and Ben Franklin as to, death and taxes or whatever. But, there was a need for it.
There's
I was a
deadlines.
lifeguard. What's that?
There's deadlines.
There's deadlines. It's funny. So I was a lifeguard in Center City, Philadelphia. And I remember there was a guy who was an entrepreneur at the condo that I was lifeguarding at. And he said to me, go into taxes. Right. He said it in the same way. If you ever saw the movie The Graduate, right, with Dustin Hoffman, and Mrs. Robinson's husband goes to Dustin Hoffman, he says, plastics. Go into plastics, right? So he said it in the same way as Mr. Robinson had said it to Dustin Hoffman. And I was like, okay, I'll go into the taxes. So hence going to Drexel grad school and all that kind of thing. But it was practical to do, and I figured that even at Drexel, I was at Drexel. I remember there was a guy there in partnership taxation. He said to me, he says, you're wasting your time here. You should be in sales, right? And something told me that, taxes are so technical. I can't just wing it. I have to actually learn it, right? Learn the techniques. Sales, sales is a honorary profession, disciplined profession, but I figured I could talk to anybody. So let me focus on the technical portion of this thing. That's where I got into taxes.
So I'm curious, there's a distinct difference between doing taxes and starting a tax business.
Yeah.
Why go to the extent of now going out on your own, starting a business, getting clients? I mean, that's a totally different thing than just doing the taxes for someone. So tell me about that entrepreneurial journey, starting your business and going out that way.
Yeah, good point. Good question, Roger. Yeah. So my Uncle Joe, I mentioned him earlier, he had his own insurance company. I never forget. He told me, he says, look, he says, you want to make money, have your own business. He says, you're going to go through pain first, right? So the key is you want to go through pain quickly. So the first couple of years, he says, you're going to go through pain, but do it as quickly as you can. And so I wanted to know how to do it. And there was always a struggle between wanting to know how to do it and getting clients, right? That's been a struggle for a while for me that I've kind of broken the last decade, I would say, last 10 years, kind of broke it. And basically, just hire somebody. As somebody told me a long time ago, I don't like doing this, Dean. I hire bookkeepers, because I had a formula that said that the more clients I had, the more 1, 2 o'clock in the morning work I would have to do, right? Until it kind of smacked me upside the head that says, Dean, people, as much as you dislike that work, people actually love that kind of work, I mean, that's like I have a personality where I need to, you ever hear the DISC assessment?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. So I'm a high DI, right? Dominant, influential, right?
Yeah.
The space that I'm in is very high, conscientious, and steady, CS, right? But the business owners tend to be kind of high DI or ID or something around that. Not always, but there's a skewing to that, right?
Yeah.
And so it took me a while. So when I had somebody do my thing and I got a high DI, he said, well, you're a high dominant, which means it's not necessarily you want to put people under your thumb, but you just don't want people to put you under their thumb. That's what a high D tends to be. And you're influential, so you like being with people, right? You like talking to maybe,
Yeah.
And he said the key is as a CPA firm, you want to hire people who are high conscientious and high steady.
Very good.
That's the nature of the work. That's you obviously this because what you do. But so I don't know if I'm kind of jumping around here, but one of the key things that I've learned has really changed my business over the last couple of years. My son came in. Before my son came in, I was a solopreneur. I was a solo job owner, right?
There you go.
Let's be clear about what it was.
There you go. I'm glad you called it a job.
Yeah, it was a job. I mean, and my oldest son who works for me now used to see me during tax season. I would smoke these little cigarillos because somehow the nicotine made me focus better. And I would drink like a vodka and orange juice, right? So he remembers seeing me during tax season with glassy eyes late at night trying to do, And I told him, I said, son, whatever you do, don't become a CPA. Whatever you do, don't become a CPA, right? Of course, he's 30 now. I was telling that when he was 10. But I learned that, I bumped into other guys and gals like me, right? And what I got from them is, it's a bit, you don't have to do everything, Dean. It's a business. Yeah, I don't want to do reams and reams of calculations either. You know what I do, Dean? I hire people. I just take my wallet out, get that money out of the wallet and hire people. So I did that. And so Kerry came in around May of 2020, just around when COVID was hitting. And his background was poli sci at St. Joe's. He wanted to go to law school. He thought he wanted to go to law school. And he started working for me part time. I disabused him of this notion of going to law school, so he felt better about that. But I tested him on the DISC. He's a high DC. So he's a high D like I am, which means that half the time he's working at home, not in the same office that I am, because you know what happens with two Ds are too close together, right, Roger?
Yeah, we don't want to choke. Yep.
We don't want to do that. And but he's a high conscientious, which means like he's really task oriented and has been able in the last couple of years to really hone his skills. He just finished at the community college taking all these accounting courses, which make him eligible to sit for the CPA exam. So we're waiting on that.
Very good. Now, earlier you'd mentioned that you'd struggled for a period of time regarding marketing, but in the last decade, you felt like you finally figured out the marketing. What was that secret that actually changed everything for you?
Yeah, for me, like I used to have the equation of, getting a new client, about a half a day of exhilaration, then I got to actually do the work. Okay. After that, I realized that, well, you can get somebody else to do it. And it took me a long, long time, partly because I have my own internal, I didn't trust people, right? Like we've got, a lot of sensitive information, documents. I just really don't want to have anybody around that information. It's kind of scary for me. But I cracked the code really of proving to myself that I could help someone. And if I knew how to help someone, help a business owner in things that he or she that they didn't know that could make a huge difference for them, then really I'm morally obligated to do that. And so, and if I'm morally obligated to do that, then I should, get compensated for that, which will allow me to do it more often. So that's how I kind of broke it. I remember when I first got into tax planning, for example, one of my colleagues, Craig, he's a CPA up in Craig Cody, you might know him, CPA up in New York. He said to me, I said, I can't charge that amount for this tax plan. That's like, I can't, like, who am I? I can't do that, right? He said, how much did you say? I said, about 100,000. And you can't take a percentage of that. He kind of walked me through it.
Yeah.
I guess I can charge them 10. Yeah. You think they'll care that they're netting out 90,000 versus 100,000 with something that they never knew anything about until they met you? No, they don't. So I kind of cracked those. I am not worthy. I'm not good enough. I'm a stowaway on an airplane. I'm phony. I'm all that kind of stuff.
Yep.
I kind of got rid of that stuff once I could prove it to myself that yes, here's a bona fide mistake that the previous accountant did. I can go into their accounting. I'm using an example here, and look at the top line revenue that went from the accounting onto a lead sheet onto the 1120S. And then when I went into that top line revenue section, there's PPP loan money, personal loan monies, finance money. Oh my God, did the amended return, got them back $98,000 check. And that's a real thing.
Yep.
Mistake, correction of the mistake, huge win for the client. I'm taking a percentage of that win for my fee. Everybody's happy. Nothing's bad. Everything's good.
I like how you illustrated that because that's what we're looking for. And first of all, I like how you explained that you had those mental blocks that so many experience. There is that imposter syndrome. There is that self-doubt. And it's that mental talk that so many of us experience that really sabotages our ability to charge what we're worth. And so at the end of the day, you broke through that and finally felt as if you could charge what you're worth, taking the skills, the expertise that you had learned to now make a good living. Now, I'm curious, as it relates to the percentage, do you charge a specific percentage of the savings, or is it something that you change each time? How do you come up with the percentage amount?
Yeah, really, I say percentage, but really it's just how many different strategies we have that are useful, right? And how many, and then we want to give them at least a 5x return, right? So outside of that 5x, there's some wiggle room, and we can negotiate how much the fee should be. Sometimes just pushback from people on the fee, but as long as I can kind of almost guarantee that at least they're getting 5x.
Okay. Good,
right?
that helps.
Yeah.
Now, you also mentioned tax preparation versus tax planning, and that tax planning is where you're making these differences. How would you describe to not the accounting professional, but to your potential client, the difference between tax preparation and tax planning? How do you explain your services that way?
Yeah, that's a good question, Roger. It's actually creating the circumstance, right?
Okay.
Like it's actually creating next quarter, next year, next 2 years. We can actually create it. It's called, you engineer a circumstance. And if you have all the relevant information for calculating tax returns, you continuously go upstream, right? It's just like when you're looking at accounting. It's like, well, you're making a net profit here of whatever the net profit is, and that's a percentage of your, let's call it your gross profit number or your top line revenue. Well, how do you make that bigger? How can you grow that, right? And it's not, so the idea is that it's not mystical. It's something that, for example, the quick, easy answer, for example, is the sole proprietorship versus the S corp, right? You see, girls got sole proprietorship making 100, netting 100, $200,000. You're like, what are you doing, right? Let's look at your return. Let's see if we can possibly. There's a good chance, more than 50-50 chance that going from sole proprietorship to S corp will save you money, right? And so we suggest that, and we kind of show them that once you're an S corp making this kind of net amount on your taxes, you can save a considerable amount. I mean, the 15.3%, I think, on the 100,000, it's like 15 grand, right?
Yep.
And I'll tell some people on different strategies, one covers my beer budget for the year, right? That's enough, and the other can finance your daughter's wedding, for crying out loud, or whatever, right? So
Yeah.
I put it in real world examples so they can get it. Because oftentimes you're just talking numbers all the time. A lot of people, they don't really gravitate toward it. But you mentioned things like, hey, this could be your vacation budget for the year. How much you pay for vacation, and you fit that in there. I mean, for me, it's beer budget, but
Beer and pretzels.
but yeah, that's right, beer and pretzels. There you go. So yeah.
So you do speak of something that I think is very important to share with my audience. You speak of ways to save on taxes, and you actually break it down to three key forces. You talk about the lack of knowledge, you speak of systems, and then you also speak of tax strategy plans. Let's break out those three, and I'd like you to elaborate on each of them. So what do you mean when you say that one of the problems or one of the things that needs to be considered from a tax strategy is, first of all, the lack of knowledge that the client may have?
Yeah, I mean, so they may not have an understanding of just how taxes work, right? If they're married and they're filing marriage separately, that might not be the best thing for them. And it can be in some small ways. It can be a good thing to have a married filing separately situation. But typically when we get a new client, a new business client that we're doing one of our monthly services, we typically do a tax plan where we go into the different marginal tax rates, right? From 0, 10%, all the way up to 37%, and how they impact the client, what it actually means. If you're an S corp owner, for example, you're wearing two hats, right? You're wearing the hat of an investor, and you're wearing the hat of a worker, laborer, or officer of the company. So you're doing so-called earned income. That means you're working for it, right? And then you're doing so-called passive income when you're getting S corp distributions,
Okay.
right? So I talked to the client about all those distinctions of how the tax law works and how it's applicable on the federal, and in most states the state piggybacks off the federal numbers, and with some adjustments here and there. But I kind of talk about that, get very clear about what's taxable, what's not taxable, and then invariably they'll say to me, but Dean, these big guys like Donald Trump, they don't pay any money in taxes. Well, they pay money. They just may pay at a lower rate, but that's smart tax planning on their part. So they can certainly do that.
So obviously the lack of knowledge is you taking some time to educate that client as to different things that they're doing, decisions they're making, and how there might be an alternative option for them that could ultimately help either legally lower their tax liability or perhaps go so far as to eliminate their tax liability. So I like that education part. I mean, that's clearly something that they're going to see a value. But the next thing you talk about is systems. What do you mean by systems?
Well, systems for getting things done, right? Because you don't want to recreate the wheel. and you don't want to operate bespoke. In other words, every day doesn't have to be different, right? Setting systems up for business is that you've got a cadence where you're keeping track of your money. I mean, you're in business to make money and to make as much money as possible. You want to look at, in terms of systems. So we use, for most businesses, we use QuickBooks, right? QuickBooks Online. I think they own about 85% of the accounting software market. You've got others out there, FreshBooks and NetSuite and whatever, Xero,
Yep.
and other platforms. But so those are systems where you've got a platform that keeps track of your money for you. Certainly QBO pulls in your transactions from the bank account while you're sleeping, right? Pulls it in, and you can go in and just have either yourself or have one of your people just reconcile your numbers. So that's a system, right? So it's outside of your own personal thoughts of it, right? It's like building a house, building a building. The builder, the contractor, the construction guy uses a leveler, a square, a leveler, a square, and a plumb, right?
Yeah, there you go.
And he or she does that because reality is not necessarily within that person's opinion. It's something separate that the person has to yoke themselves to. So having a system in place, you yoke yourself into something that's best practice. Another thing I recommend for business owners certainly is to have a tax, not a tax. Well, I've got a tax mastermind group that I belong to, but certainly have a mastermind group of other practitioners and the particular art that you're doing. It's absolutely invaluable.
Well, the thing I like about systems is it's something that I also speak of quite a bit. It's the fact that the systems you're using, the operating procedures, the means that you have to collect the data, the different forms that you're needing and so forth, all boil down to efficiency. The more efficient you are with the workflow that you have, the more profitable you will be, period. And so it does come down to, how can I streamline the processes as it relates to the client experience? You know, how are they experiencing when I need to get information to provide those documents? But at the same time, how do I do the work itself? And all of that experience is there to wow the customer and, more importantly, work efficiently within the firm. And so if I can get those things working well, I'm going to be a profitable business. So I like how you brought up systems. So let's go to the third thing, which is tax strategy plan. So obviously there's plans, you know, there's the tax code, the tax law, there's things that we're doing during the course of the year to actually plan for the next tax season. These decisions that we're making, how do you plan with your clients? Are you meeting with them regularly? What are those conversations like?
Yeah, typically, we're meeting even at the lowest level of our monthly meetings, which will be transactional. We just basically go over the standard financial statements, balance sheet, statement of cash flows, and income statement. Excuse me. We'll go through those and we'll take a look at where their numbers are year to date and see where, you know, like 6/15 is coming up, right? So 6/15 is the second estimated payment of the year. So we got to make a payment here in Pennsylvania. You make a PA 40 ES estimated payment coupon, and then you know, of course, the 1040 ES for the federal. Typically, like I had a meeting last week, and we're having another meeting later on this afternoon. We'll look at the tax person's liability, their exposure, their tax exposure. And if I didn't get their attention before on a particular strategy or tax strategy, I certainly will tend to get it either now or the third quarter, right before the 9/15 payments due. But like I did last year with the client, they were about 1.5 net, right? And so I had spoken to them when I closed them back maybe in May or actually March of last year. I had spoken to them about different strategies. I'd done a tax plan for them and the whole thing, and they were kind of listening to me. Okay, that sounds great. Now, in August, right before the third quarter estimated coupon was due, I had their listening because, you know, in our meetings, we have a Zoom call. I open up a Google sheet. It's got planning scenarios, right? This is how much you're going to owe extrapolated from our meeting date to the end of the year. This is how much you're going to owe at the end of the year. If we add in a couple planning scenarios or a couple tax strategies in here, this is how much we can truncate your tax obligation at the end of the year. Are you interested? Yeah, I'm interested. And so for one, I did a captive insurance company, which is something that I thought was very exotic when I heard about it many years ago. But just the idea of having your own captive insurance company where you're paying in, the operating company is paying into the captive, and there is no tax on the income of the captive. I forgot the section, code section, but you've got that particular strategy, and you've got dozens and dozens and dozens of other strategies that they pass muster. The particular vendor that we used last year and the year before, can't think of the name of the vendor right now. I'm drawing a blank, but they were challenged by the IRS, went to the Supreme Court, and they won. They beat the Supreme Court. They beat the IRS at the Supreme Court. So that's a winning sales pitch for any client who's bumping up against $1 million or $1 million plus of net income that they'd rather not give away, 45% of their money to.
Well, what I'm liking about the fact that you're planning is you're actually sitting down with the clients and on a quarterly basis assessing, is there something that we could be doing differently that might actually mitigate some of the tax liability? And so if anything, there's just this lesson of how often are you meeting with the clients? Is it simply that once a year where you're just essentially filing the taxes, or are you getting into more of a strategic planning conversation and looking at what's going on in the business, what transactions are happening, what plans do they have? And as the course of the year evolves, you're able to actually come in with different tax ramifications of those decisions, and through education obviously help that client make some better informed decisions. So I'm liking that. So here's the question I'd like to ask: as you go out there and offer services now, are you growing your tax preparation side of the business, the tax planning side of the business, where you're doing more advisory work? Where do you find that more of your time is being spent?
Well, that's a good question, Roger. The time is being spent on upstream, right? So the advisory, I guess, subsumes, if that's the right word, subsumes all the compliance work, right? So I'm not going to focus on a tax return. I'm going to focus, because the tax return is the end result. It's like downstream, right? I'm going to focus upstream to where it's a little trickle in the mountain happens, and I'm going to focus on planning, because when you're planning, you're dealing with something almost divine, right? You're dealing with something that's not here yet. Right? I mean, it's here in God's mind, but it's not here. But in as much as we can take what we know, extrapolate out, we can plan, right? And I mean, the year's going to go by. Tax returns. I mean, if you're a billionaire, you still have the 1040. You still have to do a 1040, like us little people, right? It's all the same thing. So we to your point, we're checking in on our clients at least once a month. If there are any thing that's a problem, or somebody won the lottery or whatever, we can we can jump in and do a quick calculation to make sure that they're paid in as they go throughout the quarters of the year to the end of the year.
Yeah, it's that quick trip to Atlantic City that you're referencing there. All right. So what I'm taking here is that you're going upstream to say, let's get involved with the client as they're making decisions. And then the preparation is just that final thing. And like I always say, it's just basically taking what was done and documenting it. You're not much doing more than just putting on the paper what's on the financial reports and just submitting it. So it's an oversimplification, but nonetheless, that's what it is. So what I'd like to then ask is, do you also involve yourself with maybe tax resolution services?
Tax resolution, I haven't done that in a long time. I usually give that to, there's a friend of mine, Larry Weinstein in Houston, who does
yeah,
that.
I know Larry.
So, you know Larry?
I know Larry.
Oh my God. Yeah. Larry's my, he's my go-to guy. But Larry's pretty good at it. So I just give it to him. If it's ultra, I mean, basic stuff I can handle, or Carrie in the office can handle. But if it gets sophisticated, I'll just give it to Larry.
Very good. Well, do me a good favor and shout out to Larry for me. I like
that.
I will. Yeah, that'll be funny. Small world. All right. So here's the last thing, and I'm going to wrap this up. As it relates to running your business, you've been doing this since the 90s, obviously. You've got your son now involved. What is something that you're really grateful for that's come of starting and building this business offering tax services?
Probably it's helping people. Yeah, that's the thing you have to say, right? I'm helping people. But for me, it's given me freedom. Having my own business gives me freedom, right? And looking into the marketplace and saying, okay, what is the what are people scrounging for? I didn't want to make toilet paper, right? Although that's something that some people do. They're probably toilet paper millionaires, right? That's just wasn't my thing. But I figured that I'd get into this space because it allowed a lot for me. I knew that from the beginning, I knew it would take a while to build up my skills. through several tax seasons and education and so forth and discipline to build my skills, but I knew there would always be a market for me. And I knew that once I got the skill myself, I could teach it to somebody else. I'm teaching it to Carrie. Um, and it gives me just a lifestyle that I can work from anywhere. I can be in Puerto Rico right now. I could be in West Coast in LA. I could be anywhere with a laptop and a phone or laptop and a connection, and have these kind of meetings and meet with my clients. And it's been very liberating for me.
I like that. I'm curious, what do you hope that your son is taking from watching you start and run your business as he has, now that he's especially involved? What are you hoping that he's learned as he's watched you as an entrepreneur?
That he's learned to deal with people. He's very good at people, actually. He's very good with our client base, gets back to them very quickly. He's very professional with them. But learning the value of hard work, right? Learning the value of hard work, learning the value of frankly being a man. I don't know if I can say that on TV right now, but being a man that is going to be a father one day, is going to be a husband one day, and being able to be the man of the household. I won't say the head of the household. I don't want to get in trouble here, but at least be the man of the household, right? And just take care of business. He knows he's got clients that are depending on him. And if he tells a client, like he did this yesterday, that he'd get this thing to them by Thursday, and he CC'd me on the email, he got it done today. He knows he's got people that are relying on him. It just makes him stronger, it makes him more mature. It's growing him as a human being.
I like that. Good. Well, it's been a pleasure having you on, Dean.
Thank you, Roger.
I was really excited about. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to first of all start with an offer. Dean's been very kind to actually say that as you're running your tax business, if you're interested in knowing more about what it is that Dean's doing to be successful in his company, and more importantly, market and grow, offering these tax preparation and planning services, feel free to take advantage of this offer. That's actually a no obligation conversation and assessment of your business. Just take advantage of the episode description offer of going and scheduling some time to speak with Dean, and I appreciate him extending that. The other thing I want to invite you to do is become a professional tax preparer. One of the things that you can do is actually certify your skills in both individual and business tax preparation, as well as planning. And with that, also pursue becoming an enrolled agent. So if you'd like to learn more of how you can become a certified professional in tax preparation and planning, become a professional tax preparer or EA, definitely go to the episode description and get the information you need there so that you can further your career as a professional tax preparer today. In addition, what I'd like to also do is point out that Universal Accounting Center is sponsoring today's episode. As such, if you'd like to learn more about the certification programs that are available, check out the episode description so that you can see what you can do as a professional bookkeeper, a QuickBooks specialist, a professional tax preparer, as I mentioned, and also as a profit and growth expert. Each of these are designations offered to individuals that wish to specialize in providing quality accounting services to their clients, and I invite you to become exactly that, a professional today, certified by Universal Accounting. Whether it's you or your staff, get the training needed so you can offer these quality accounting services with your firm. Now, the other thing I'd like to do is just real quickly a recap of our conversation. I'm really pleased with Dean coming on and sharing a little bit of his background. The fact that he was pursuing first becoming a dentist, found that there was a greater security in becoming an accounting professional and started to go that route. I like the fact that he went and pursued taxes as he did, and with that experience, chose in the 90s to actually go out on his own. That entrepreneurial drive paid off. Obviously, he was pursuing freedom, a little bit more flexibility. He was getting great advice from around him of what he should actually go into, and he listened. He went into tax. As he mentioned, it is very common. Death and taxes are very much certain in life. He did bring up toilet paper. I guess everybody needs toilet paper too, so that's fine. But the point is he went into actually focus on tax preparation, and he found that there's a lot of value also offering planning services. And so one of the things I appreciate about the conversation is his distinction between those two, and he was able to actually focus then on what he basically in his marketing emphasizes to help clients realize what it is he can provide for them. First of all, helping them with that lack of knowledge they have is tax strategy, the systems that he's using to work efficiently, and then last of all, the planning, the tax strategy that he could actually implement with the client to ensure as he's regularly meeting throughout the year as to what it is they can be doing decision-wise today to impact their tax liability situation in the future. So great context as it relates to the services being offered. And then with regards to gratitude, it's the fact that with regards to his business, he's been afforded the freedoms that he was hoping for. And as an example to his children, he's got his son now involved in the business, and he's seen that he's really becoming a great man in that regard. So all these things, great little insights. Dean, what would you like to leave as a closing thought?
that Carrie's first tax course was with Universal Accounting. So thank you for that.
I actually did not know that. Well, it's always a pleasure to have an alumni on the show. Well, as a professional tax preparer, congratulations on the career you've had, the business that you've built. That's phenomenal.
Thank you. Thank you.
You're very welcome. Well, Dean, it's been an honor to have you on the show. Let me just basically mention to all the listeners out there, if you haven't already subscribed to the podcast, please do subscribe and let us give you the weekly updates that we have. Hearing from the experts is the various things that you need to be working on to thrive as a premier accounting firm in your area. Now, with regards to today's episode, I want to point out that if you'd like more information regarding the things that we discussed, go to universalaccountingschool.com. At Universal Accounting School, we've got a variety of things there as to programs, courses, curriculums that are afforded by Universal Accounting to assist you so that you can get the training, the confidence, and the competence to go forth and actually offer these services to your clients so that you can get paid what you're worth. In addition, I want to invite you to go to universalaccounting.com and find there the podcast section. We've actually prepared a number of playlists, highlights, if you will, of previous episodes that you can binge listen based on your current needs. And then in addition, go to the free resource section to find out what other resources we've provided for you as accounting professionals to excel in your career and become that premier accounting firm. These happen to be ebooks, courses, curriculums, white papers, just a variety of things that we've compiled to essentially assist you as you're building your business and working on building the premier accounting firm. Now, lastly, what I'd like to point out is GrowCon. GrowCon is an annual conference. It's a conference for owners of bookkeeping, accounting, and tax businesses. It's here where you come and actually with your peers collaborate, make new friendships, build a community, and with that, actually better service your clients. It's a phenomenal opportunity to actually meet with peers in your accounting space. You get to hear from the experts from the stage and also meet my staff, those individuals who are committed to helping you be in business for yourself, but not by yourself with Universal. So I look forward to meeting you there and having you join me at GrowCon. So register and more importantly, join me at this next event. Now, all that being said, obviously, if you have any questions about the things we've discussed today, feel free to give us a phone call. You can reach us at 801-265-3777. And always remember this, accounting success is universal. Take care, have a great day, and be safe out there. Dean, that was awesome.
That was cool. Thank you, Roger.
And
Thanks
I
for
don't know if I knew beforehand or not, but it's nice to know you're an alumni. That's awesome.
Carrie took the course. Carrie, my son, Carrie.
Oh, your son. Oh,
yeah.
There you go. Better.
That's
yeah.
right.
I'm glad he
That's
did.
Right. Yeah. Very, very cool. Thank you, Roger.
You're very welcome. Well, here's what's going to happen. This did go live on like YouTube, LinkedIn. So if you'd like to, you can go out there and like that, share it, comment on it, share it with Larry, for heaven's sakes. In addition, what you can do is also in a few weeks, we're going to release the episode. And when that happens, we'll let you know of it. And you can, again, like it, share it, promote it, and so forth. Now, for that release date, I'm going to have you record now that promo piece that I spoke of. Mm-hmm. So in the chat, I put the text. It's very simple. You're just going to read when you're ready. Hi, this is Dean. It was incredibly fun. And just go from there.
Okay, great. Can I move this thing at all? No, it's not movable. Hold on 1 second. Let me grab this. Okay. Ready?
Yep.
Hi, this is Dean. It was wonderful to record with Roger an episode of Building the Premier Accounting Firm. We discussed many things, and I invite you to listen and join us. Thank you so much.
Very good. Well, Dean, here's what's going to happen. Following this